So some states are coming up with a whole bunch of these new progressive laws. California, though, is the laboratory of liberal insanity, as you know. California, which, as I like to point out to you, used to be a Republican stronghold, which people completely forget now. We had, President Nixon, President Reagan. These guys came from California, from the California political system. California was a red state until basically the 90s in presidential elections, reliably red. Not every time, but usually. And now, it is the belly of the blue beast. California is liberalism distilled down to its most insane parts. By the way, I think I'm actually going to be in California in a couple of weeks, so I'll come back with some stories from the front lines of liberal insanity there. Although I'm in New York City, which is basically as bad. We just have a slightly more capitalist outlook, I guess. I don't know. I'm not even sure we do, actually. New York is probably in some ways as bad as California. We have Staten Island, though, at least. Republican stronghold of Staten Island. Yeah. But there's all kinds of new laws in California that are going into effect. Some that'll have a real impact on things. And here is one, for example. This is just amazing. Play clip one, producer Mark. This is a new water use law in California. Play one.
All right, this one, I'm not sure how I feel about this. You're not going to be allowed to shower and do a load of laundry in the same day.
I had the same misgivings. Doing a load of laundry takes about 40 to 50 gallons of water. Taking a shower for about 8 minutes takes about 17 gallons of water. Well, there's a limitation on your daily use of water of 55 gallons per day. So that means if you are taking a shower and if doing a load of laundry, you can't do both without being in violation of the law. There are some exceptions about this. There are some caveats. For instance, if you have a multi-person household, if you have 4 people in your household or 3 people in your household, that 55-gallon limit per day applies for each person. So you could do a load of laundry if you have a multi-person household.
Okay.
So who's going to police that? Yeah. Cuff Mark Krisky when he's showering? How's that one? What's going on? Who's enforcing this?
Well, you can actually see your water usage on a daily rate with your water meter.
$1,000 a day, folks, if you were to take a shower and do a load of laundry in California as a single person. So that'll have more than 55 gallons of water usage in that, they estimate. And they already have these water meters set up. They're going to see your water usage. This is what they've done. This is what liberal, left-wing, socialist policy has done to a state that, in many ways, is the most blessed piece of land of anywhere in the United States. The California coastline is incredible. It's gorgeous. It has amazing weather. And California has all these different climates. You got, you go up in the north, San Francisco area. It's great for wine growing. Go down south. You have sunny weather. You can wear, board shorts and a T-shirt year round if you want, or socks with Birkenstocks if you want to rock it like producer Mark does. Do you ever do the socks? No, he's not on board for that. That was a thing for a while. People used to wear socks with Birkenstocks. You remember that? Hippies. So California is going to start fining you $1,000 a day if you use too much water. You'd have to wonder, why is there such a precarious condition for water usage in the state? Well, it's because a lot of it has to do with the management of water by the authorities. And just like they don't manage their forests well, they don't manage their water well. You'd think a state where they're obsessed with environmentalism would be a little bit better at this. You'd think that a state where there's so many people that spend so much of their time thinking about all these issues would be in a position to be better at dealing with them. But that is, sure enough, not the case. That is not what ends up happening. They are not good at dealing with this at all because they take a statist, collectivist approach to these issues. And they believe the loony climate change left's rhetoric. They put it into action. And here's this. This was a local California TV station. They're having this. And you can tell the anchors are like, wait, what? This new law is going into effect in 2020? Play clip 2.
Now, there are actually fines available for this as well. Your violation is $1,000 per each day that you are in violation.
Wait, who made this a law? Let's talk to them.
It's the state legislature. The governor signed this into effect. It goes into effect January 1st. Now, there's also another caveat. If we're in drought conditions and the governor declares an emergency, that fine can go up to $10,000 a day. So be careful.
You know, you could change your word to serenity to anger now.
Wow.
You're not going to be able to shower in 2020.
You know what? I'm going to pick doing laundry over showering.
So all of a sudden, I can smoke marijuana as much as I want, but I can't take a shower.
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
A whole new world. Yeah, absolutely.
That's where our country.
It's like I can smoke marijuana as much as I want. I can't take a shower. I mean, it's kind of true. That's what California. The streets are covered in feces. The middle class is fleeing. The taxes are too high. The crime rate is rising. You can't take a shower, but you can smoke all the weed you want.
Well, I'm looking forward to my trip there in a few weeks.
I was going to say, I'm heading out there, so I'll let you guys know. And no plastic straws.
I hate that.
Do you know what the percentage is of plastic in the oceans that comes from the United States? It's like less than 2%. We basically put no we have stopped using plastic in this country for things that are useful under the idea that we are somehow trying to stop like sea turtles from choking, which I like sea turtles. I don't want them to choke. But the plastic is not coming from us. You know where the plastic is coming from? Is actually a lot of it is driven by major river systems into the ocean. And those major river systems are in Asia and Africa. That is where a vast majority of the plastic that is making its way into the oceans is coming from. Do you think they're like, we're going to stop using plastic straws? This is what I mean. They don't think. Identify the problem, figure out the solution, see if the cost-benefit analysis is worth it. They don't do this. They just go, oh my gosh, there's a thing, and I have these preconceived notions about how I view the world, and then there's this problem, and I'm not going to look at whether the problem would actually even be addressed by the way I'm going to approach it, but it'll make me feel good because the problem is so scary. Well, climate change is a perfect example of this, but plastic in the ocean is another one. I would tell libs, hey, you're not making things any better by doing this thing you're doing, and they would say, why do you want sea turtles to choke on plastic? And I'd say, I don't, but they don't care. They don't care. It's getting harder and harder, folks. You know, I wish that there was even a place where you could have reasonable, interesting debate with liberals on these issues, but you can't anymore because how do you debate with somebody who, when presented with this, is just going to say, well, we have to show leadership? I mean, liberalism today, progressivism, is just drowning in its own sanctimony all the time. And it's just it's heaps of it, all of it. Oh, I'm so great. I'm so amazing. Why? What makes you so great and so amazing? Oh, because I do these things that liberals do. Not good enough. Not good enough. But then again, they don't care because it feels so good. California's obviously got some very, very bad ideas, but I wanted to just say that we're at the point now where maybe we should create just a recurring segment on the show, which is really bad ideas from Democrats running for president right now. Like the things that they say that are not just the things that are untrue or unfair, but just the fact that they don't even really understand what the consequences would be of some of the things that they are very much pushing for. You have, for example, minimum wage is a great example of this. I keep saying minimum wage is very popular, even conservatives or Republicans, people like it, but minimum wage is something that does not work as advertised for most people. For some people, it does. Some people will make more money who are workers because of minimum wage. Some people will have their hours cut back. Some people will lose their jobs. Some people will have automation instituted that will either limit or cut back their hours. I mean, there's all these different ways of dealing with the imposition of cost via central planning, which is, in fact, what you have through the minimum wage. Senator Bernie Sanders does not care, and so he runs around saying that we need what he calls a living minimum wage. Please play producer Mark, pardon me, clip 11.
Bottom line here is that we need a federal minimum wage for every state in this country, which is a living wage, at least $15 an hour. Now, $15 an hour is not a lot of money, but it is better than $7.25 or $9 or $10 an hour. Second thing we need to establish in America is that women must earn equal pay for equal work.
All right, let's deal with both of these bad Democrat ideas, shall we? Equal pay for equal work. You have a $15 minimum wage. And we have to keep returning to this because people, I understand there's an emotional, so much of central planning, so much of socialism is pushed not by what works, but by what feels good or sounds good to people. And I understand why so many would say, look, can we get a little more money to people who are, if you're working in an hourly job, chances are, there are people at law firms that are making $800 an hour, although usually they don't get to keep a big piece of that. They get to keep a small percentage of it if they're working in a big firm. But usually if you're an hourly worker, you tend not to be making a very high wage. And so, when you're talking about hourly workers, anybody who's making minimum wage, or rather who's affected by minimum wage legislation, is going to be someone who benefits from this, and you want to help those people, right? You want people that are showing up, doing a job, being productive, doing what they're supposed to do. You want them to have what they need and to be able to get ahead. Of course, getting ahead financially also involves decision-making and planning and some degree of luck. These are all things that people don't talk about on the left. They just pretend that there's a way that we can all be living in some glorious future where there's no deprivation, there's no economic insecurity, there's no want or need that is not met by the dictates of the state. $15 minimum wage. Let's deal with this one real quick. Why not 30? Why not 50? Because, and then they would say, oh, that's absurd. You'd say, okay, it's absurd. Why? It's absurd because at some point the cost is too high for the business to even be able to function at all. And so then you say, well, and I haven't even brought up how, well, in some cases maybe it'll be good for workers, but then you're just passing the costs on to the consumer. So, the money's coming from somewhere because ultimately the cost is the cost. Ultimately, the market has determined what the cost of labor is for a certain kind of job in a certain place. And, you're either going to accept that and let the market determine it, or you're going to make a determination external to those market forces based upon what you think is fair, what you think is right, based upon, what people feel, really, which is what this is. Bernie Sanders, $15 an hour, that's just a number that he's picked out of the air. You could do this with any number of things. What would happen if you said, you know what, guys, let's just make all, you can't have you can't have a house that is, 2 bedrooms or less that costs more than $100,000. Okay, well, in some places maybe that wouldn't be such a big deal, but in most places it would be a huge problem across the country. And what would happen if you set that artificial price for housing? You would have massive housing shortages. Builders wouldn't be able to make a profit. They wouldn't be able, you go down the whole list, right? There are all of these. There are forces that are at work beyond just the dictates of the government when it comes to decisions like this. And yet Bernie Sanders pretends that it can just be a decision made by government in this way. Yeah, I'm not saying that they raise the minimum wage, everything's going to be catastrophic and then everyone's going to go out of business. No, of course not. But there will be problems that come from this. And it doesn't also deal with some of the underlying issues of, well, if someone's labor is worth $7.50 an hour and we start paying them $15 an hour, it doesn't deal with what about the fact that labor is only worth $7.50 an hour? This is what pushes people to automation. Companies, to automation. This is what has other forces that are at work that you don't necessarily see just based on the take-home pay of certain people that are affected by minimum wage. Anyway, it's another one, Democrat idea, but people like this one. Minimum wage. You got to have a minimum wage. All right, and then there's the equal pay. I don't know how to really deal with this other than just say it's a lie. They know it's a lie. They don't care. They keep saying that equal pay is a problem that needs to be dealt with via legislation. They keep saying that equal pay is something that the government must take action on. The reality is that whenever you look at a study of this, whenever you see people really crunching the numbers, women are not paid less for doing the same work as men. That's not how employment works. That's not the reality of the employment market, because if you have, first of all, you have more women graduating from college right now, for example, than you do men. So there's already an enormous influx of college-educated females into the workplace all across the country. If you line up the comparison so that it's apples to apples, you'll see that this just isn't. It is not rooted in reality. But you can also just look at it and say, well, if I could save 30%, this is the quickest way. The same way that I know that climate change is nonsense, the way the libs talk about it and set it up, because they're not going to sell me. They're not going to sell me a house in Malibu for a fraction of the cost right now because of climate change. Right on the beach, man. That water is going to be rising really fast if we're going to be all dead, or starting in, well, not all dead quite in 12 years, but if we're on a path to the eradication of the species in 12 years, that's not very long. You're going to be along the coastline. That's going to be a big problem, right? No. When it comes down to it, when the truth of what they say is a disadvantage to them, they ignore what they are saying. When you take it to its logical ends, it no longer matters. With equal pay, you can have a similar experiment. All you do is say, okay, well, if I can save 30% of my labor costs, and I'm a aggressive capitalist, somebody who wants to make a lot of money, who wants my business to be highly effective, you know what I do? I just hire only women. They're doing the same work. It'd be great. I mean, I love producer Mark, but if we could cut 30% of the labor costs by getting somebody just who happens to be the female producer Mark to come in here, and we cut 30% of the salary, that would be a pretty enticing thing for executives. By the way, Marquette, what would we call her?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Do I have to get gender reassignment to keep my job now?
I'm just telling you, man, that if we could save 30%...
You'd fire me in a second.
I mean, I'm not saying I would, but somebody would. If we could save 30% on you know, and it's true of me too.
I mean,
if they could have female Buck doing the radio show, same show,
that's true.
Same host, same numbers, same sponsorships and money coming to the show, they save 30%. Of course, they would fire. It would be crazy not to.
Just get a male or female worse than us, and you pay them less.
Yeah, but people don't do this, and the reason they don't do this is because the underlying premise is not true. The underlying premise being that, women are just paid less because they're women, because there's this patriarchy and all this stuff. But it's something that sounds good to Democrats, so they keep saying it, even though the reality is not what they offer up. The reality is not what they say. And at some point, we just have to look at this and say, when is the media? Well, when's the media going to go? The media is never going to call them out of this. They're never going to say, "Oh, we finally figured out that we should stop being so dishonest about this." No, of course not. Because they have an agenda, folks. They're activists, not journalists.
It's time for roll calls.
It is indeed time for roll call, as the gentleman announced there for us, which we always appreciate. So let's get right to it. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton to have your voice heard here on the show, or Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com. We do want to do a merch store. We want to do more Shields High podcasts on history. We're going to set up a YouTube channel. I got a book that's coming out. We got to have more people watch Pluto TV, channel 248, the first. The first is the best channel on Pluto TV, although there's a lot of channels on Pluto TV you could check out. But you should be watching the first on Pluto TV. It's just because I had a break, and I've been sick for like 10 days. I'm finally now, you can hear my voice is pretty normal. I had a cold that just would not stop, and went through these phases where I thought I was like almost better, and then something else would hurt and be bad, and I know, woe is me. Jane kicks it off here. Hey Buck, I love you and wish we had lots more little Bucks. Whoa, hey. Ooh, spicy in the Freedom Fund. But I keep Christmas decorations up until 12th night, which is January 6th, the time the kings visited Jesus in the manger. I think this is about the same time the Greek Orthodox celebrate Christmas. Jane, I had a little mini Christmas tree, which some people say this might be sad, but it's not sad because in New York City, you're in a mini apartment, you got to have a mini Christmas tree. I had a mini tree, and the tree came down yesterday. So, you know, I kept it for a while. I kept it into the new year a little bit, but it started to get to the point where it was dried out, and all the little pine needles were falling off of it all over the place. So that's no fun. Can't have a messy Freedom Hut, so we had to get rid of it. But good things all around. Good things. Mike, Nancy Pelosi is going to sit on the impeachment paperwork until she knows for sure that Trump is going to win the election. Then she'll pull out the impeachment paperwork in an attempt to keep him from serving another term. What do you think? Check out Memories of the Alhambra. It's on Netflix from Mike. Mike, I don't know. I don't know if that's... I got to think about that a little bit. It's possible. It's possible. I think she... Look, I still obviously have made my bet, made my bed, so to speak. I think that she's going to have to transmit them at some point. I don't think she can transmit them. It sounds like Vladimir. Transmit this to Vladimir from Medvedev. It seems to me like she has no choice eventually, but maybe I'm wrong. Usually when I say that, though, I'm not, as you guys know. So I like the sort of false humility of maybe I'm wrong usually works out in my favor. Booyah. Let's see what we have next in the mix here. Oh, and Alhambra, yeah, I'll check that out on Netflix. I'd like to do that. Kenneth, South Front ran a story on the Ukrainian armed forces back in December. When discussing the Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, they stated that these have yet to be used in combat and seem to be held in reserve. Well, Kenneth, this has come up before. They are held in reserve because now there's an understanding with the Russian provision of armored personnel carriers and tanks and things that they will be destroyed if they are used in an offensive capacity. So it's kind of like the assurance of destruction from knowing that they have and can deploy these missiles to destroy armor has neutralized the advantage, the clear advantage that the Russian-backed Ukrainian separatists had from having Russian-provided armor, if that makes sense. So just knowing that they are there has now been an impediment to their use, so it has been highly, highly effective in that regard. Let's see here. We have Kyle. Buck, I appreciate Joe Biden simply for the comparison he allows us to make. Look at what President Trump is actually being impeached for, basically nothing. Now imagine what actually happened was the FBI on Trump's watch used a false foreign source as a predicate to get a secret FISA warrant to wiretap Hunter Biden and his associates. And by virtue of the two-hop rule listed on Joe Biden himself, heads would explode. Great show as always. Merry Christmas. Thanks, Kyle. And indeed, appreciate your analysis on that one. And yeah, we have more roll call for your listening enjoyment here in just a moment. All right, and now here we are with our continuation of the roll call, which is the best call. And it's producer Mark's favorite call because it means the show is almost over, which means he gets to go back to Long Island and his new bride. He gets to hang out, which is great. I, of course, disappeared to my actual Freedom Hut, which is definitely a hut and not a castle. It is a cozy little joint. All right, we're doing the Facebook here, facebook.com/Buck Sexton. If you want to send me your thoughts, you want to send me what you got going on, please do. And we get to it with Wendy, who writes, used to be somebody who voted for Dems like Kerry. No more. Now I'm solidly a Trump supporter. Well, the good news, Wendy, is that we all make mistakes, but also we should all be able to achieve some degree of forgiveness, dare I say, or some degree of, making amends. So I'm glad you're a Trump supporter now. God bless. Thank you for sharing your thoughts here. We do appreciate it. Adam. Buck, on Friday's podcast, you had an echo on your voice for the entire podcast on the iHeart app. Shields high. Well, that sounds like Shields low to me. And producer Mark, what is going on here? Do we know that this happened?
I mean, I can go back and listen, but
nothing changed.
no,
All right,
nothing changed on it.
Adam, I don't know, man. We got to check because I didn't hear that from anybody else. So usually,
I will. I take listener complaints
of course,
seriously.
he does.
I will listen.
We should actually have like a little. We do want to set up a camera in here so you guys can see producer Mark. That's a Christmas present I haven't given him yet, but we're working on it. But I want to set up a little producer Mark complaint jar, and every time we get one of these emails, we have to drop drop a quarter in there or something. And at the end of the we'll go out. We'll get
a lot of quarters.
We'll go out. We'll get gluten-free Chinese food together at the end of the year with the producer Mark complaint jar.
Gluten-free Chinese food. What is that?
It's good. It's just Chinese food that doesn't have.
But I can't think of anything Chinese food other than like General Tso's chicken or something that would have.
Chinese food is all gluten. Like it's all gluten.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Because of the sauces.
Soy sauce.
I didn't think of that.
All soy sauce.
Okay.
So everything has either flour or soy sauce or both. A lot of it has both. But if you just replace the flour and replace the soy sauce, then like nothing in Chinese food has gluten because of the ingredients.
Yeah, because rice doesn't have
rice
gluten.
Is fine.
I was thinking like chicken and broccoli, but I forgot about the soy sauce.
Yeah, the soy sauce that's where you get nailed. So yeah, but tamari sauce, it tastes just like soy sauce. I cannot tell the difference, and that's all. You change that, and you're good to go. It looks like soy sauce, tastes like soy sauce. People think that they think gluten-free is like fat-free. Fat-free is gross. Fat-free food is bad. When they take the fat out of food, very bad. When they use fake sugar and things, very bad. Gluten-free is just different. It's just different.
I would try gluten-free Chinese food. Now, gluten-free pizza, other than cauliflower pizza, not happening.
Yeah. We'll make it happen. Richard, Buck, happy Hoosier hellos from the third shift. I hope you had a great Christmas and a happy New Year's and a birthday. I want to start to try and get your show added to local talk radio station here in Raleigh. Do you have any pointers on what to say or who to talk to at a radio station? Right now, 9 p.m. to midnight slot is all podcasts, which would be good if they were only your podcasts. Is there a certain person who decides radio programming? Keep up the awesome work and Shields High. Well, Richard, you're certainly welcome to write into the local radio affiliate and request that the person would be called the program director, or sometimes it's a station manager, depends on the station. But yeah, the program director is usually the one who determines what shows go where. And I would certainly love, Raleigh's a great town. I would love to be added to any station. Are we on a station in Raleigh already though? No, we're not. Okay. So yeah, put us in Raleigh. That'd be great. Richard, get some of your buddies to send in emails too. At least get us on the radar of the folks there. But there you go. Michael writes in with, this has your name written all over it. Wow. He sent a photo of big strips of chocolate-covered bacon. We're just talking yesterday about Bacon Bar in New York and how bacon can even be mixed into ice cream. I have had I think it was Voodoo Donut in Portland, Oregon. I had a maple glazed donut with bacon topping, which was, and this is when I used to eat gluten. This is right before I figured out I had celiac disease. It was amazing, I will say. So when it's done properly, it's really good.
I recently went to a Brazilian steakhouse, and you know how they have like the salad bar, which isn't really salad. At a Brazilian steakhouse, they had maple glazed bacon.
Oh yeah,
it was
amazing. Oh, it's amazing. The best thing at the Trump International Hotel in D.C., which is actually a great hotel, it's really nice. The best thing there is the bacon that they pull out, and they have it hanging almost like on a clothesline, like you're getting your clothing to dry out back in the day. And they take a little flame gun, a little flamethrower like thing, and in front of you, they sort of flame the bacon. I guess also known as cooking it. But no, they flame it, and it's already been glazed with some sweet sauce. Whew, it's worth the like $25 or whatever. It's expensive. It is not a cheap hotel. Roger writes, looking forward to another year, Buck. Roger, so are we, man. We're still here. Producer Mark, Producer Buck, we are still employed. We got Producer Nick doing Overwatch for us. He's kind of like our sniper from from behind the front assault team. He's like doing Overwatch for us, making sure. Producer Mark is clearly the machine gunner of this fire team. And I guess I'm the guy on point with the M4. But Producer Mark, he's a heavy gunner. You know what I mean? We got Producer Nick doing the sniper situation, and I'm assault team kicking in the door. Taylor writes, how is PBR? I've been to one. It's the best event I've ever been to. It was constant entertainment and the best of the best performers. UFC events are a close second, but the PBR stands out above the rest. You know, Taylor, I mean, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'd say that, you know, PBR, one of the great things it has going for it is that the people involved in it are, like, everyone's just there to, like, everyone's very supportive, everyone's there to have a good time. It's a very unpretentious thing, very unpretentious crowd. You know, you go to a lot of these events now. You know, I went to a Knicks game recently, and you go to events and you'll see people, and everyone's in, like, their corporate suites, and people are spending so much money on these events and so much money to be there and everything. And, like, PBR, it just had a much more relaxed atmosphere. You know, the security guards were a little more like, yeah, it's PBR, go for it. You know, you kind of move around, take photos. They weren't checking your ticket stub every 5 seconds. It's a very welcoming atmosphere because they just want people to be there and check it out. And, you know, they got the guy who's I don't know if you call him the head clown. I don't know. My dad is a wealth of knowledge about PBR, watches a lot of PBR, knows the riders. He actually gets very excited. He knows quite a bit about the Bulls. And producer Mark, I'll tell you, you know that the Bulls get a score? That the highest score, it's 50 points for the rider, 50 points for the Bull. The Bull gets a score as well.
What kind of reward does the Bull get?
I don't know, actually.
That's a good question.
But there are Bulls that are, like, the most formidable of the Bulls.
So, like, do they advertise, like, see this Bull at Madison Square Garden?
People know that the Bulls have cool names, you know, and there are Bulls.
I was just curious if it's like horse racing, like you're going to Belmont to see a specific horse usually.
The horse is obviously the superstar, and the jockey, no one knows. Does anyone know the jockeys' names?
Really big into horse racing people do.
That's it. I mean, those are the only people. But people will know because the horses also get these cool names like, you know, I don't know.
Secretariat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for pulling one up there because I was blanking out, but they have cool.
We recently had a Triple Crown winner. I could not tell you the name of it, the horse.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see, like, what are the coolest names that the horses have had. But they're very cool names. Yeah, and the riders are certainly more famous than the Bulls are, but the Bulls get a score. And, you know, there's a little bit also of, like, there is a certain degree of risk and danger in this whole process too. And so when sometimes the riders get stomped on, you know, there's a big background of Brazilian riders. There's a lot of Brazilians in PBR, which I think is interesting. They just have a culture of it there. I guess it's kind of almost like, I know gauchos are Argentine cowboys, but the gaucho and Brazilian version of that, whatever it's called, they have a big tradition of it there.
I did not know that. It's not just a Texan thing.
I was not aware of that. Milwaukee, which means the good land. So yeah. Well, Milwaukee's had its fair share of visitors. So yeah, I mean, PBR is really cool. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. I had a great time there, and it's if it's something you've never done, it's an experience you should definitely have at some point. It's just fun. It's fun to go see. I've really been making an effort recently to go see more stuff. To go do more things. I mean,
you're in New York City. You've got Broadway right here.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, I'm just burning through, like, whatever, you know, retirement money I would have right now by going to see, like, PBR and things like that.
Just PBR. You haven't seen any shows lately? Don't you live right in that general area?
I saw Moulin Rouge a little while back.
That is not what I was expecting.
That was, you know, I took a friend.
I meant like Dear Evan Hansen, you know, Come From Away, stuff like that.
Oh, like what the sophisticated
shows,
fancy. Well, Moulin Rouge is on Broadway.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Oh, it's the Broadway production of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't go alone. I wasn't, like, sitting there by myself taking notes.
See, if I lived in Manhattan, I would just be doing all the lotteries constantly and, like, just trying to win stuff so I could get cheap shows.
How do you do that?
There's online services where you sign up online, and if you win the lottery, you get an email, and you got $20 tickets, or however. It's different for every show, but.
Really?
Like the Hamilton lottery is the cheapest but hardest to win.
Huh.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Hamilton.
I haven't either.
I kind of want to see it just because I have a feeling that I may not like it.
And I don't think you're going to like it very much.
I have a feeling I'm probably not going to be that. Just given all the hype around it, too.
You're a history buff, so you would get this. Get it, yeah.
Correct. I also, I saw the Book of Mormon, which people thought was so funny. I mean, it's clever in some parts, but it was like there's so much cursing. It was so profane, and I'm not somebody who. Cursing like anything else, it's like explosions in movies. Like, I can handle some cursing. I can handle some explosions in movies. When every 3 seconds it's another boom, bang, boom, it just turns into just noise.
It was the South Park guys. I mean, come on.
You know what I mean?
You expect it.
Yeah, there was just a lot of, I don't know, it was not really as good as I thought it would be.
Have you seen Come From Away?
No.
That was a story of the Canadian city that got all the planes on 9/11 when they grounded everyone. Huh. And they made it into, like Like, they were amazingly hospitable, and like, it's a musical. One of the best shows I've ever seen. I teared up at the end, and you know I'm a grump.
Wow. Yeah. I got to check that out, actually.
Yeah.
Is it still playing?
It is.
Come From Away.
Come From Away. I think it won the Tony for Best Musical a couple of years ago.
All right. I gotta find the future Mrs. Sexton and take her to. So I gotta find her first, but then I gotta do Come From Away.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
I know there's options there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Producer Mark, you're a troublemaker. All right, that's going to be it for today's show. Hope you've all enjoyed everything going on here in the Freedom Hut, as always, and we'll be back with you tomorrow, same time, same place. Tell somebody about the show. Pass the buck, please. Shields high.